Her name was Alice, a short, white Wisconsin girl with wavy brown hair and an ever-present Packers jacket. She liked Pat Thai and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. She gushed over black and white movies. She couldn't dance if her life depended on it, and she caused one of the most terrifying years of my life. I was heading to this weekly improv show, but my friend whom I usually went with was out of town, so I posted an open invite to a university Facebook group. I got exactly one response from this random girl Alice, but my socially awkward ass was all over it. She came to the show and we hit it off big time. Cue the coffee meetups, the Netflix binges, blah blah blah. We started dating. Life was pretty good for a while. Then came the first messages. A lovely series of blurbs from a man named Eric. His profile picture was a skinny guy in thick-rimmed glasses with a hoodie, a beanie, and his tongue sticking out of his open smile. This becomes important later, trust me. For now, what's important is the spattering of angry Facebook DMs from this man I never met, detailing why I'm not a good boyfriend and that I'm hurting Alice, and how I just don't understand her like he does. I was a bit annoyed, but mostly confused. I talked to Alice about it, but she just hand-waved it away. He's a jerk, she said. I don't hang out with him anymore. It wasn't the most satisfying explanation, but aggressively jealous guys aren't exactly that abnormal. So I just blocked him and thought that was the end of it. A few months passed by. Summer came and went. Alice had planned to study abroad, so when I came back to school, she was already halfway across the world. It was only a few months, I thought. No big deal. Over those next few months, I would become Facebook acquainted with a myriad of strange individuals. There was Leah. Her Facebook profile was just a Facebook silhouette icon. She sent an array of messages justifying Eric's anger, reiterating that my relationship with Alice was unhealthy and toxic, and that Alex and Eric have a much better history. She also included a blurry photo of a girl sitting on top of and making out with a skinny girl. Both of their faces were obscured, but Leah swore it was Alice and Eric from somewhere during the summer. There was Nick. Facebook pic was a guy on a skateboard in front of a sunset. He readily admitted that he had feelings for Alex, but made clear that neither he nor Eric had any right to be upset about her not being with him. He said that Leah and Eric were liars and that he'd try to set them straight. Relative to the others, he seemed semi-okay, but he let slip a really bitter-sounding message. He sounded like a loose cannon, always a little on edge. There was Hannah. Facebook pic, two silhouetted girls in front of a sunset. She showed up after I blocked Leah. She claimed to be a childhood friend of Alice. He the same old, your relationship is bad shit. There was Chris. Facebook pic, a white blonde boy in sunglasses. Very elusive. He would send one cryptic message every once in a blue moon. He'd never reply to any of my messages. There was Mark. Facebook pic was two pairs of feet, one male, one female. He apologized for the actions of the others. He tried to fill me in on the group's dynamic and history. In the physical absence of Alice, he offered to meet up and talk. Like an idiot, I agreed. We set up a time and place. He never showed up, and I never heard from him again. There was Sarah, there was David, there were so many. This is all spread over a period of time. Usually I blocked or stopped hearing from one person before hearing from another. Digital harassment after digital harassment, with some vague threats sprinkled in. Meanwhile, Alice is extremely difficult to get a hold of. I chalk this up to vastly different time zones, but even when I do hear from her, she's really dismissive of the whole subject. I don't know what to do, she said. And then I got an accusation. One day she sends me the question, who's Mary? I tell her the truth, that I don't know who Mary is. She sends me some screenshots of texts she received from an unknown number. In them, the sender wrote that her name is Mary and that she is in love with me. He told me he loved me, Mary wrote. He had sex with me and now he has not called me back. If you feel like the story is rapidly losing focus, it's because it is. There were so many desperate things going on, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why. At that point, I was just about losing my mind. But this is where things get beyond crazy. I started to get texts from Mary. She asked why I hadn't called her. She asked if I meant what I said to her. She told me she'd come to me. She said she had seen me on campus, here, there, at this event, at this particular time. And anytime she said she had seen me in a place at a particular time, I realized that I'd actually been at that place at that time. I started looking over my shoulder. I didn't know what I could do. I had no face, no name to report. Then I hear from Nick again. He said he found Mary. He said he tried to talk to her and she tried to pull a gun on him. But the situation was resolved and she was now being put in treatment. That's all I could squeeze out of him. I am beyond confused at this point. I am beyond afraid. I call Alice. I tell her I can't do this anymore. I had no clue what was going on, but I knew somehow they were all involved and I wanted no part of it. I cut off contact with her. And then everything, the messages, the texts, it all stopped. A friend of mine realized something soon after. Barely any of Alice's friends had their faces on Facebook. We did some digging. Eric's pic was some photo off a Tumblr blog full of cute nerds. The photo of Chris, the one with the white boy and sunglasses, was an obscure photo of Justin Bieber. The photo of Nick, the skateboarder, was a stock photo. Hannah's photo was art from a book ad. David was apparently a Korean pop singer. We also noticed something else horrific. All of their profiles were created around the time I met Alice. To this day, I don't understand why. Fast forward 2 years. I get a text from an unknown number. That number looks familiar, I think to myself, and then I realize it's Alice. The text consists of one word. Talk? Sorry, Alice, but let's not meet again. I was 21, recently became a police officer, and also recently dumped. So my friend suggested Tinder. As a 21-year-old and new cop, I had the I'm invincible, I can take on anyone mentality. I matched with a very good-looking, out-of-my-league female. We chatted and eventually set up a date to meet. She said she had a great open field to look at the stars and hang out, and we could meet at her place. So the night came. I was excited and she seemed to be excited when I picked her up. She guided me to the field and it looked nice. Open space, woods, deer and other wildlife. In the field, I noticed some really dim headlights in the distance. Then the van started driving towards us and pulled up right in front of us, almost close enough to block me from going anywhere. I told her to stay in the car and I'll go say hi. I grabbed my flashlight I had in the car and walked up. In the front driver's side of the van, there was a decently sized man. I asked him what's going on, if he could back up his car a little bit. He was very polite and said he was the owner of the property, and he said he didn't mean to scare us. He told me he's having trouble with poachers on this property and just wanted to make sure we weren't going to be shooting anything. I assured him that we came out here to look at some stars and wildlife. He was perfectly okay with that, told me to have a nice date, and drove away. After that, the girl was texting nonstop. Around an hour later, I saw headlights coming toward us again, and this time at a really fast pace. We hopped in the car, and I moved to the more defensive position. The same man came close enough to almost hit my car. She hopped out of the car at that point, ran towards the guy. I immediately knew I was fucked. I got out and gave them commands to back up and get on the ground. Neither of them complied. Obviously, he then proceeded to charge me and knocked me to the ground. Luckily, I'm able to get him on his back and get up. I saw my date grab a metal pipe from the van. She told me they had a gun and to give them my money and truck and I wouldn't get hurt. Of course, with my I'm invincible mentality, I said no. She started to cry and said they didn't want to hurt me. He then started to go back to the car. At that point, I told them I was a cop, drew my concealed firearm, and to lay on the ground. After a moment of shock from all of us, they complied. I was able to call 911, tell them my name and badge number. I had two at gunpoint and needed backup immediately. I gave our dispatcher the best description I could of this field. While on the phone, they both fled. Again, stupid new cop, young guy mentality, I chased them. I took off after the man, who ran into the woods around the field. I chased him for maybe 30 seconds and heard 3 loud pops and saw him muzzle flash. Now my I'm invincible mentality went right out the window. I ran like hell back towards my car and peeled the hell out of there. I went back to the area I picked her up in, called dispatcher again, and had officers come to that location. Of course, the first officers to pull up was my sergeant and my field training officer. Of course, they were both completely understanding and didn't give me shit about it at all. The most used words were dumbass and stupid fucking rookie. I hopped in their car and went towards the field. Luckily, the van was still there. I was told to shut my mouth and only come out if they started getting shot at. They cleared the area and started looking at the van. They found meth right in the center console and searched the rest of the car. What scared me the most was when my field training officer and sergeant came back to the patrol car, let me out, and told me to come look in the back of the van. Both of them were pale, looked horrified. I went to the back of the van where there were several knives, duct tape, lighter fluid, a decent amount of rifle ammunition, handcuffs, and what looked to be dried blood. In front of the front seat passenger side, we found an AR-15 style rifle and 2 more handguns. We called for immediate backup and detectives. When they investigated the blood, it turned out it wasn't blood. The plates had been stolen, and the van was reported stolen as well. I still get shit about the whole encounter, but luckily, no one got hurt. I will never use online dating again. I've told this story other places, on other accounts before, but it bears repeating. One day, I was an elementary schooler, I think probably 3rd or 4th grade. I was awoken by my mom in a rush. She had overslept, and since she always woke me up in the morning, this meant I too overslept, and now there's just no way I was going to get ready for school early enough to get on the school bus. School started at 8 a.m., and my bus pickup time was 7 a.m., but it was already like 6:40 or something, and I was still in my pajamas and hadn't had any breakfast yet. So Mom decided that today we would just tell the bus driver to go ahead and she would take me to school, which would give me plenty of time to get ready. So I'm sitting there at the dining room table eating breakfast, still in my pajamas, and it's now about 6:50. We hear the bus pull up about 10 minutes earlier than usual. My mom peeks her head out of the door into the foggy morning and waves the bus on. She closes the door and comes back inside, but the bus doesn't pull away. There's a knock at the door, and Mom opens it to find a man in a bus driver uniform. He explains that he's a substitute driver because the regular driver called in sick. He says he knows he's a few minutes early since he wanted to get an early start on the route since he didn't know it well. Mom explains to him that she was going to take me to school since we woke up late. He gets visibly upset and says that he can wait a few minutes since he's already running ahead of schedule. My mom insists that no, I won't be ready to go in a few minutes and tells him to go on ahead. He seemed angry about this, but turned around and got back into the school bus and left. I returned to eating my breakfast and still don't have my school clothes on at this point. But at 7 a.m. sharp, another bus pulls up to my house. Mom thinks it's weird and goes outside to talk to them. She comes back inside looking terrified. but doesn't really say anything about it and tells me to finish getting ready for school. At the time, I didn't know what happened, but Mom would end up telling me a few years later. When she went to the second bus, she found that it was being driven by my regular bus driver, and it was full of all the other kids that are usually on my route. The other bus was empty, by the way. Mom asked the driver about the substitute driver and about him calling in sick. I never called in sick. There is no substitute driver on my route, he said. The driver immediately called his dispatch in a panic and told my mom to go inside and call the police, which she did without me knowing, and report this incident. There was absolutely no one doing my driver's route that day. Whoever this was most likely a kidnapper who had targeted me. I've never heard anything about it, not even if someone else had ended up being picked up by this mysterious fake bus driver. But chances are, had I gotten on that bus, I would have never made it to school or back home. And if Mom hadn't overslept on that specific day, I would have been on that bus. I'll go ahead and be blunt. I make small, personal videos and upload them to a sea of platforms for a few bucks here and there. It isn't an ego thing, but a small hobby I find interesting. My first month or two, I uploaded almost everything to a Tumblr account. I never made it into a huge cam shows or anything like that. It also allowed for messages, which I occasionally replied to. That was my first mistake. It went smooth for a while, until I ended up getting a message from an account whose username was pretty much jargon. It was something pretty normal. Looking for a boyfriend? Which I promptly replied with, no, sorry, I'm in a relationship. I appreciate the offer though. He responded with a slurry of profanities. Now this may seem like your typical nice guy pose, but it gets worse. Soon I was getting more messages from a different account. It was graphic. He went into deep account about how he was going to stalk and promptly assault me. It was sickening, but dropped it because it was on Tumblr and he couldn't possibly find me. That was wrong. Within the week, I was getting hundreds of messages. I had to mute notifications because they blew up my phone. A unique message, which were all gross. They got worse, however. He detailed how he would study my behavior to learn my nightmare and use it against me. At that point, I was angry but stuck. I couldn't fight back, so I just ignored them. Sadly, I made the mistake of posting my face at a diner in my hometown. It was just a quick snapshot I had taken at a hole-in-the-wall restaurant and made a comment about the food. He took this as an invitation and reverse image searched it. I had also posted it to Facebook, which contained my hometown, school address, and personal life. He messaged me from an account with yet another nonsense name. That's how I knew I fucked up. He told me he knew where I was from because of the photo, and I'd regret rejecting him. I snapped and said I'd call the cops if he kept acting this way. Well, he didn't stop. He actually went the extra mile and headed to my hometown. He showed up at my part-time job. Lucky for me, I wasn't at work that day. Another coworker came in contact with him, who begged for me to come to the front. He got angry when she refused to say when I would come in. Cops were called. The horny psycho finally arrested. The saddest part was when I was interviewed, I learned he had 2 children and a functioning marriage. His wife knew nothing of his behavior. I've gone through quite a few pervy incidents, but this one was by far the worst. So, Mr. Perv, let's not meet again. This is my brother's girlfriend's story. She doesn't have a Reddit, but I told her about this subreddit and she wanted to share her story because it's creepy, but also to learn from. I go to school in a big city that is one of the least safe cities in the US. I chose this school for nursing and definitely not for the location. I live in a row house off campus with 4 other girls. cheaper and nicer than dorms, or so we thought. I guess you get what you pay for. We are all girls and sophomores in college. As you could guess, we go out and drink. Come back to things we don't remember. We had just started our rent in August. 3 floors, plus a basement which was padlocked by the owners. Understandable, we would definitely have parties down there to avoid immediate cleanup. The house was great, amazing location to the school and work. I am a CNA who works odd hours, important for later. It was not expensive, and good condition. I had never lived with that many roommates before, just one roommate, so before, we definitely knew if one of us had misplaced or changed something. I started to notice my snacks were either half gone or completely gone. I was getting annoyed, but a house of many people is too much work to go figure out who ate what, so I ignored it. Slowly, as girls do, we started making comments about someone eating our food, but passive-aggressively. You know college girls. We all just let it go because who wants a whole house fight? I work until 11 o'clock in the NICU. Get home at about 11:30 mostly on weeknights. I started to notice pans left out or snack wrappers around. I thought it was odd because none of my roommates had done that before, but just thought, oh, they probably drank a bottle of wine and went to bed and forgot about all this. Again, my roommates started making comments. This time we started to ask because it was getting annoying, all of our food being gone and things being left. I knew it was one of them, but who wants to admit they ate someone else's snacks in college? Snacks are a high commodity. We talked it up to the girl who always smokes and eats her weight in food, but she swore it wasn't her. This went on for about 2 months. It got more obvious someone was clearly taking everyone's food. Definitely the girl that always smokes. I see her eat her whole snack pantry in a night. I wish it was her. One night at work, I was about to get off, but a situation happened and I didn't end up leaving until 12:30. I took the bus home. I got home and was about to collapse. I wanted to go to bed ASAP. I walked in the front door and the stairs are directly in front of you. You can also see down the side to the kitchen. I walked in and saw someone in the kitchen, but was way too tired to say hi, thinking it could end in like a 30-minute conversation about, well, nothing. So I went upstairs. When I got to the second floor, I noticed all my roommates' doors were closed, which always means that they're either in their room for the night or asleep. I got a weird feeling. Just something made it click. They were all asleep, right? I texted our house group chat asking if anyone was in the kitchen. I felt stupid for even asking. 2 responded no, and they said the other 2 had been asleep. I knew it wasn't any of my roommates down there at that moment. I dialed 911, but didn't press call. I crept into my roommate's room across the hall. Thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, she didn't have her door locked. I whispered, telling her I think someone is in the house. She gave me the widest eyes ever and almost looked like she was going to cry. She didn't suspect anything like I had, but for reference, very bad areas, and there was a shooting in the house 2 doors down, only weeks earlier by an intruder. She mouthed to make the call. The whole time we were dead silent. We didn't hear really anything at all. I was starting to think I was saying things after such a long day at work, and was regretting that I died thinking I'm going to look like an idiot when they show up, and I was just overtired and dreaming. We explain what's going on, and they say they'll send someone over ASAP, and that actually does mean right away, since it is a big and dangerous city. The police showed up, and I didn't even want to go downstairs, but the operator confirmed it was them, so I did. But the whole time, I could swear the operator could hear my heart beating. The police come in and look around. I'm thinking, oh God, I look so dumb. They ask if there's any other floors, and I tell them technically the basement, but it's padlocked, so really, no. They check the basement just in case. And, well, yeah, they were right. A man had been living in the padlocked basement. The lock was pulled off the hinges and just kind of propped against the wall. We never looked at that though. We rarely went out back. The guy had taken a comforter of one of my roommates out of the hall closet, had a mattress from God knows where, and his clothes? Well, he was the one moving and eating all of our stuff. He would come out in the middle of the night and do it. He started getting more comfortable. I don't know if he was drugged out or forgot to clean his tracks or if he just didn't really care anymore. Me and my roommates have pretty consistent schedules during the week, probably letting him think that any time after about 12 was good to come out. We never slept with our individual doors locked, and that's what freaks me out the most. He had access to any one of us at any moment, and we had no idea. When he was getting arrested, I was the only one to go down and look. I don't know why I did. I wish I didn't. I took a picture in the process of him being arrested to show my roommates who were too afraid to go down. This is him. So, yeah, let's not ever actually meet, dude.
Hello everyone, Jay here. I hope you guys enjoyed the story today. This is still a new channel, so feel free to like the video and subscribe. Even leave a comment if you would like, and don't forget to share the spooky. Stay creepy, my friends, and remember, fear not the darkness itself, but what may lie within.
Spoiler.